China restricts foreign investment in a number of sectors, including a couple of the sectors that are most popular for foreign investment. That includes the internet sector and anything e-commerce related, and anything in the education sector. They also restrict many other sectors that are less interesting to foreign investors, and some sectors are completely prohibited, completely off limits. You can't make nuclear weapons in China, for example, but no one's looking to do that. But many companies are interested in participating in China's e-commerce because China is the hottest e-commerce market on the planet. So China doesn't allow foreign companies to operate in that sector. Because you need to have, in order to have an internet company, you have to have an internet content provider's license that will not be given to a company that has foreign investment in it. Faced with this problem, China's internet companies had to find a workaround. And the workaround is called the variable interest entity. Now, a VIE for short. A VIE, the VIE or variable interest entity, is a term that comes from the U.S. accounting literature. It's a very technical accounting term. But what it basically does is allow for a company to control another company through contracts instead of through ownership. By controlling through contracts, you can try to achieve many of the same results that you would get as controlling a company through ownership. The key thing with a VIE is if they're properly structured, the company is allowed to consolidate the operations of the VIE with the parent company as if it owned it as a wholly owned subsidiary. So that was a really important thing for these companies to be able to list abroad. They could not own the company, but they wanted to include its results in their financial statements. So the way a VIE structure works is that a public company or wanting to be public company in China that is usually set up as a Cayman Islands company for the foreign companies to invest. The internet content provider license, however, is owned by a Chinese company that's owned by a Chinese individual. Often the founder or key executives of the company. So they set up a company. It's privately owned by Chinese-only individuals, and they get the license to operate the website that's going to be used for the business. Then the owners of the company, the owners of the VIE, these Chinese owners that are executives, sign contracts with the public company and its Chinese subsidiary, which is called a wholly foreign owned enterprise, or a WFOE, W-F-O-E. They sign contracts with that company that basically transfer control of the VIE over to the public company. So any decisions that are going to be made have to be made by the public company, and if there's any dividends to be paid, they have to be paid over to the public company. And they also put in place an agreement to provide services from the WFOE to the VIE, and the plan is to extract all of the profits out of the VIE in the form of service charges. Now, under the U.S. accounting rules, they're borrowing on a rule that was put in place to stop what Enron was doing. Enron, back in the around 2000, Enron had become very clever at structuring off-balance sheet financing. That is, it was able to borrow money and keep it off their balance sheet by using special purpose entities that were owned by their treasurer, Andy Fastow, and they weren't actually owned by Enron. Even though Enron was really on the hook for all of these liabilities, they were able to keep them off the balance sheet. When Enron imploded, the accounting standard setters said, well, we can't let this happen again. So they put in rules that require a company to be consolidated if it's controlled, even if it's not owned. And so those rules were called the VIE rules. Accountants in China were very clever. The VIE rules, as originally designed, were intended to make companies put liabilities on their balance sheet. Accountants in China figured out a way to allow companies to put assets on their balance sheet, assets of companies that they don't own. And that solved a big problem. It allowed Chinese companies then to list in the United States, raise considerable capital, and report the results of entities that they don't own as if it was their own.